Hello, and welcome to Tarot and Attachment. My name is Erin Smith. I am both a professional tarot reader and an associate marriage and family therapist. And we will be having a new moon in the sign of Virgo on Saturday, the 23rd. So I thought it would be a good time to check in with the cards and see what energetic themes might be emerging around this time and give us a sense of what we're looking at, how to handle the events of our lives in a skillful way. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. I'm just going to say a prayer. So it does look like, and I guess this is not surprising as we come up on a new moon. The moon is a fast moving transit, and every month we have a new moon and a full moon. And it's always interesting to track, even just to go outside and look up at the sky and notice what phase of the moon you are witnessing and look around you and see what is happening in your life. This is really where astrology became a thing. In some ways, you can think of it as this. It's thousands of years of people collecting data, right? When I'm looking up at this constellation in that area of the sky during this time of year, what is happening around me? What are the crops doing? Are they flourishing? Are they ready to be harvested? Or am I sowing seeds? What are the weather patterns doing? What are the political and economic situations that are going on around me? And for thousands of years, people have been tracking this data and writing it down. And this is where these correlative archetypes have come from in association with planetary movements and the houses of the zodiac. So in light of all of that, new moons are really it's noticing where things are coming to an end and what is being born in this next cycle, in the next phase of the moon. So at the full moon, there is a slow decrease in the light of the moon. Of course, this is why we call the new moon a dark moon. It is when the moon and the sun are conjunct in the sky. So the sun cannot, or the moon cannot reflect the light of the sun in the same way it does when the moon is directly opposing the sun and receiving the full light of that reflection. So you can think of an archetypal expression of the new moon. What is being hidden from view? What is living below the level of consciousness? If you think of the light of the sun as being symbolic of the light of consciousness, what is it in the new moon that's being excluded from conscious awareness? What is receding or existing in the unconscious? What is within the shadow? What is what has come to the end? What is it that we need to acknowledge in our own lives that is so you can start to see how these archetypes work. And of course, here we have the Death card and the Knight of Pentacles. I find these images to be very interesting. So both of our figures are on horseback. Both of our figures are armored. One of these figures is really about the ending of one form in order to give way to another. Because really, in the symbolic language of the tarot, death is the closing of a chapter, but it, of course, always gives way to something new. You know, death is the ending of one form to transform into the next state of being. And so in many ways, what we are being called to look at this new moon is, again, looking at our own lives and noticing where we are in the cycle of our own life and what elements of our character, our behavior, what choices that we're making, maybe even, you know, specifically in the form of who are we choosing to be in relationship with? How am I showing up emotionally to those relationships? What patterns have consistently played out in my interactions with others? And if I were to choose to look at that consciously, what choices would I make that are different, that are divergent from that old pattern? This is sort of, I think, what the death card is asking us to do. What is dying? What is falling away? What do we need to let die in order for something new to be born? And again, specifically in the realm of relationships. But let's go back to the Knight of Pentacles again. Pentacles typically represent the physical, tangible ways that we show up in the world. Our bodies, our health, the earth itself, the bounty that the earth produces in order for us to feed our bodies. So they're real world material actions that we take. And the Knight of Pentacles is slow and steady wins the race. So when we let go of old habit patterns that may not serve us anymore, when we're willing to shine the light of truth down into our own unconscious and uncover these patterns that no longer work, that are no longer going to carry us into the next phase, what real world incremental actions can we take that will facilitate a new real world experience? This is really what the Knight of Pentacles is asking us. So as we are letting something go, we are taking actions to replace the old behavior with something new. And again, we're being asked to reflect, what is nourishing now? And start small, right? But piece by piece, step by step, we're going to replace the old with something new that is nourishing, life affirming. And again, there's a strong emphasis here on our internal life, how we feel, which influences how we relate, how we love. So the Seven of Cups is what I refer to as emotional vagary. It's being in confusion or delusion around how you feel about something or someone. And in general, this card comes up in readings when we're afraid that we're not going to get what we want or we're going to lose what we have. It's murky, it's foggy. It's sort of like to identify what it is that we desire, to really admit to ourselves, this is what I want. It's sort of like the threat that it may not actually transpire, the disappointment that one would feel from not being able to have the thing that you truly want is so painful that we just exclude it from our conscious awareness. And it's like, I'm not really sure how I feel or what I want. And in a way, this is an illusion or a delusion, right? Sometimes it's about talking ourselves into wanting something that we really don't care about, because it's easier to imagine that that's a possibility than the thing that we truly desire. So the Seven of Cups is inviting us to get clear, to really look within ourselves and exhibit some self-honesty. What is meaningful to me? What is in alignment with my true values? And what would a real world example of that look and feel like? And am I willing to claim it, right? The universe cannot conspire to bring you your heart's desire until you are willing to claim it, right? So, just in light of, present circumstances, it's really easy to look around the world and say, I do not like what I am seeing. That there is so much pain and struggle and strife that is coming out of the current political climate. I want it to die, but I have no idea what the thing that I want might look and feel like. It just seems so far away. It seems so impossible to implement that I don't know what to imagine. I don't know what to move towards. This is what Spirit is asking us to do at this time, to acknowledge that there has to be a shift, that something is falling away, and that in fact, that may be a good thing in order to give birth to something new. But in order for that to happen, in order for us to plant new seeds, we have to vision what it is that we actually truly want. And what that looks like is true love. So you can think of the archetype of the Two of Cups as communion, a deep recognition. I see you and you see me. And we honor each other in this deep and meaningful way. And that we are willing to be in this equal exchange of giving and receiving. That we give of our hearts freely, willingly, and that we honor one another as equals. This is the kind of archetypal expression, certainly, that I would like to experience in the world, not just in my personal relationships, of course, that is true, but in communities at large. Imagine a world, if you will, where everybody's needs were met in a good way. There would be no need for competition, for scraping to get just the littlest of crumbs in order to survive. What if there was an equal distribution of goods and services and food, all the things that we need in order to thrive in this world as embodied beings, right? We need shelter, we need clothing and warmth, we need safety in our surroundings, we need love and attunement and recognition from the people around us. We need, we need to care for the earth so that the earth can care for us. These systems of reciprocity in all areas breed goodwill, a feeling of belonging, connection, which I believe is absolutely essential. And not so easy to imagine in light of what we're experiencing in the world right now. It is important. I often say in readings when the death card or the tower come up, they're similar energies, although one in some ways takes place more on an internal level and the other takes place on an external level. But there's a lot of overlap archetypally. And what I always say to people when these cards come up, imagine, if you will, living in a world where nothing ever died. We have such a fraught relationship with death, especially in Western culture. But the truth is that it is it's necessary. If nothing ever died, in short order, there would be no room for anyone to live. Exponential infinite growth is a cancer, and it kills the very thing that it is living off of. And so it is important to let old systems die when they've run their course. But of course, they must be replaced with something new. And so here we are, being asked to exert our will in skillful and mature ways in order to create something that is life affirming. That is wand energy. Wand is passion, creativity, life force energy. And of course, queens represent mastery and maturity. We are called to look within ourselves and locate our own power and create something that is life affirming. And we're just gonna put it into practice little by little, moving in the direction towards true love. That is what this new moon is asking us to consider, and maybe to find ways of implementing in our own lives in order to facilitate a change in the collective, one that might be beneficial to everybody. So I hope that was helpful, and I wish you well on this new moon. Many blessings and much love.